I can't quite explain this carefully or clearly enough when I say the words, Dark Souls is my favourite game of all time. In fact, if you asked me what my 5 favourite games were, I'd probably just say the Souls games. Does that mean I'm slightly biased towards FromSoft? Maybe. But nonetheless, with the 21st of April came the Fire's Fade edition of Dark Souls 3, marking the end of the trilogy, and an era. So, I thought it was time to look back and discuss what truly was a trilogy to remember. It can be hard sometimes to put into words your opinion on something you've so deeply immersed yourself in for so long. I can and have talked about Dark Souls for hours on end. In fact, I plan on making more Dark Souls videos in the future. But today, in an effort to keep this video from going on forever, we're going to discuss what you might call the overarching story of Dark Souls. There is of course a big difference between story and plot, and I'm not going to be talking about the First Flame, Gwyn, the Abyss, or anything else, as those are really videos for another day. Instead, I want to discuss what the series is really about, or rather, what it represents in our world. So, with that, grab your Estus flask, draw your sword, and mash that roll button, as we dive into Dark Souls, the Unspoken narrative. Whether you're a brand new player setting out on your first pilgrimage, or a speedrunner with 1,000 hours under your belt, is an unavoidable fact that you will die in Dark Souls, because it's, Dark Souls. It's really hard. A truly unique statement these days. But this difficulty is not quite the same thing as turning your settings on Skyrim from novice to master, rather a tool to tell the story of Dark Souls, and it's just as important as any music, dialogue, or cutscene. But what is the story of Dark Souls? Well, simply put, the world is dying, and it's up to you to do something about it. Your superpower? You can't die. At the eventual cost of your sanity, you can continue to try again and again, until something breaks, be it you or your enemy. But it's really about courage, determination, community, and hope. Yes, that's right, you heard me. Dark Souls, the game that loves to remind us that life is a cold, dark, unwinnable struggle against time and entropy, is, at its heart, really about hope. In fact, Dark Souls might be one of the best teachers out there. The plot of Dark Souls might be about Gwyn and the chosen undead, but the story is an allegory for our lives. And Dark Souls tells us one thing very, very clearly, that holds true to each and every one of us. You are not special, but that's okay. It may seem simple, but the Dark Souls message system is a perfect example of this. These messages are left by other people playing through the game. They're not always helpful, that's for sure, but they have some very key uses. Should you trust them? Do you accept the advice? You must make up your own mind and decide for yourself. Games are about autonomy, and in Dark Souls, as in life, indecision will get you killed. These messages remind us that while we are on our own journey, there are 1,000 others out there. You are not the only undead, and if you don't link the fire, well, someone else probably will. The world of Dark Souls, just like planet Earth, is profoundly uninterested in you as an individual. If you give up and go hollow, oh well, the Earth will continue to spin regardless of what you do. Feeling depressed? Don't worry, there is a silver lining. You may be one of many, you may not be all that important, but believe it or not, those infamous messages help to create something incredible. A community. We as players, faced with the insane difficulty of the game, band together. If Dark Souls had an easy mode, you'd blast through it. As I said, the difficulty is as important as anything else. The greatest treasure is worth nothing if given freely. We all face hardship, and that binds us together. Something we should probably try more of in real life. But speaking of others, why don't we talk about the other characters in Dark Souls? Some are friendly, others less so. But these are actually people. More so in Dark Souls 1, but these are characters with their own goals. If you forget to talk to them or do a specific part of a quest, sorry, but they're not going to wait around for you. They have their own agenda. You are no more special than them. You can influence the world, you can even save some of them, but they will always follow their own goals. And there are no happy endings in Lordran, but there is compassion and friendship to be had. As you progress through the game, you will meet others and influence the world around you, but more importantly, you will find a purpose. Whether you wish to link the First Flame, or let it die out, or perhaps you're fighting for a fallen friend, or simply so that others can live in peace. Whatever the reason, through this terribly cruel world, you have found a reason to move on. This is a game about struggle, and about finding your purpose in the world, whatever that is. Dark Souls, unlike any other game, has taught me something. That it's okay to be afraid, it's okay not to know, and it's okay to fail. Whether you skip every cutscene and dialogue, or scour every painting and statue, all those that play Dark Souls will probably have a pretty decent understanding of this. In order to succeed in Dark Souls, you cannot be afraid of being lost, of dying, or of failing. That big dragon may look scary at first, but keep at it and you'll find its weaknesses. Sometimes, it's only by getting lost will you find something truly special, and only by dying over and over can you become strong enough to overcome your obstacles.
Over and over, over and over.
Over and over.
All too often in stories, our hero is too strong. He's too perfect. He never fails. But how can we relate to that? We are not perfect. We fail. How can we emulate something that can't be compared to a flawed human being? In Dark Souls, we are presented with someone that struggles. Someone like us. Someone that pushes their limits in the way we should. Our flaws make us who we are. Dark Souls is not interested in the Chosen One mentality. Sure, the character is called the Chosen Undead, but you only got that name by getting further than anyone else. You're just a dude with a sword. And if you fail and go hollow, then you weren't the Chosen Undead after all. The game will remind you that you're not special. In fact, everything in the game is designed to kill you, even some of the clothing. But equally, it's there to be beaten, and to be overcome, and that adrenaline rush as you slay your would-be killer is all the sweeter after 50 tries. This next part may seem unrelated, but bear with me, as there is a point. There was once a Greek philosopher named Democritus, who had a very interesting view on life. Many people look at the world and weep. It's so cruel, it's too hard. All the misery and death and horror, it is understandable that it might get you down. But Democritus suggested that instead of wallowing in this sadness, we should accept it. By embracing this world of sadness and understanding that this is our base existence, every time something good happens, it can be properly celebrated. Whether it's a sunny day or a tasty ice cream, we can relish in the fact that this is not sadness. This by no means stops or prevents the misery of the world from happening, but allows us to carry on and hopefully be capable of actually doing something about it. How does this relate to Dark Souls? Your entire existence in these games is built on struggle, on death, and on misery. If you let that get you down, you'll give up and walk away. But if you accept it and push forward, you'll be rewarded. You will find pleasure in finding a new weapon, excitement in defeating a boss, and comfort in the warmth of the bonfires. These small victories turn what would be misery into, well, fun. The story of Dark Souls is one of struggle and failure. The journey of a hero facing challenges and enemies far beyond themselves. Yet, they persist, they fight on. It's a story of failure, but it's also one of triumph. Life will not let you win every time. There's no reloading, and no cheat codes. No matter what they tell you, you can't hack life. But should we let ourselves be pushed down by life? Of course not. Dark Souls will not beat you unless you give up. And that's the same for life. So, the next time you're faced with a challenge, don't be afraid to fail, as long as you pick yourself up and try again. Thank you so much for watching my Dark Souls video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I plan on making plenty more videos like this one, so if you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and like or dislike as you please. Until then, check out my other videos, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!